What's a secret you'll never tell your partner but are willing to tell strangers on Reddit? Story 1. I never paid for her engagement ring. I went to a custom jeweler to have her ring made. It's a beautiful piece and she loves it dearly, and it certainly wasn't cheap, appraised and insured for around $10K. The jeweler was dealing with a lot of family issues at the time and was incredibly disorganized. I went to pick up the ring and brought my checkbook to pay for it, and when she handed me the ring I took it out and asked her who to make the check out to. She said, "Oh no, don't worry about it right now, just send me a check in the mail." I thought that was strange, but sure, okay. She then hurried off to help another customer, and I left. But she never told me what the final price was. For the next 6 months, I texted and called the jeweler asking, "Hey, just tell me what amount to put and I'll mail you the check." And there was always a reason she couldn't tell me. "Oh sorry, I'm out right now, I'll find it and text you later." Her shop was a few hours away from where I live, so it wasn't feasible to stop by and handle it in person. I tried for 6 months, but after that I stopped calling and just figured I got the ring for free. I wouldn't tell my spouse, because I don't want her to think I took advantage of the situation or that somehow the ring isn't as meaningful because I didn't pay for it. Story 2. That she killed a cat. She's very much a cat person. Once she picks me up from a friend's house and driving through town, a cat ran in front of us and we heard a thud underneath the car. She screamed and looked in the rearview mirror, and we seen the cat stagger into a driveway. She was very upset and convinced she killed it. I told her no, the cat clearly ran across the street and is probably fine. She was meeting some friends and I was taking the car home, so she said would I check the driveway of that house on my way home to make sure the cat was okay. I said I would. I drove back that way and parked a few houses down and looked in the driveways, and there it was, lying motionless, sprawled out on the ground. Oh shit. Part of me was thinking just go home and say you seen it happily licking its anus, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to check to make sure it was still living. The problem was it was a gated house that was also a B&B, so I didn't want to just wander in on someone else's property. So I rang the phone number on the sign at the side of the road. By this stage I'm thinking, what the hell are you at? You should have been home long ago, but I was on autopilot and just went with it. The owner answers and I tell him there's a possibility dead cat in your drive. Do you mind if I come in just to check it's okay? The guy is like, yeah, I guess. It's just I'm out of town and there's no one here, but it's fine if you want to let yourself in the side gate. He also says thanks, so at this point I have to do it. I'm too far in now. I let myself in and walk over, and there she is, a big dead cat. Oh balls. Well, I'll just tell my wife the cat wasn't there and we can forget about the whole thing. Except the owner now knows there could be a dead cat on his property. And when he gets home and sees it lying there, he's got my number and will know I just left it there. So now I have to make a decision. Do I leave this dead cat here or do I take it away? And if I do, what do I do with it? Across the street is a store, so I walk over and buy bin bags and rubber gloves. Make my way back over and scoop the fluffy corpse into a bin bag. Now I got a dead cat in a bag. I walk over to my car carrying this black bin bag. People are walking past me on the street, smiling and giving that upwards nod that strangers give. I give a nod back, but I'm not fully into it because they don't know I'm walking past them with a dead cat in a bin bag. I don't feel like taking it into my car because, it's a dead cat. So I Google vets and there happens to be one not too far away, walking distance. I ring and ask them, do they dispose of dead pets? They said they do. So I make my way down there, in through the front door, and ask the receptionist, was I just talking to them about pet disposal? She looks at me slightly freaked and says yes. I produce the bag and say, oh well, I have a cat here, and can I just give it to her? She's like, hey, yeah, you just leave it at our back door back outside, and charges me 50 quid for the pleasure. I walk back to the car, and sat there for at least half an hour, in silence and as still as a dead cat, trying to process the last hour of my life. I text my wife and say, no honey, couldn't find the cat. She must be fine and ran off somewhere safe. See you at home 30. Story 3. My girlfriend kinda did this to me. She's someone that frequently has problems, be they physical or mental. I'm usually the one getting things done and holding her together. The flip side is on the rare occasion in which I need help, I feel like she resents me for it. A couple months ago I had a bad flu, fever, puking, diarrhea, the whole deal. As I'm languishing on the couch, she says something along the lines of, I like when guys are sick, the world just has to stop turning for them. I'm like, I literally haven't asked you for anything, I just wanna rest while I'm sick. The frick? Edit. To clarify, people expressing concern, we have an overall happy and supportive relationship. This negative snapshot is an exception and not a rule in our relationship. Partners can sometimes do or say things that are kind of insensitive or inconsiderate to someone they love. That's just part of being human. I know I have my moments that wouldn't make me look great in isolated incidents either. But part of being adults is that during these moments we talk about it and communicate how those comments make us feel. In the aforementioned incident, it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the crap job she worked at the time. They would guilt people for calling in for any reason because they refused to hire adequate staff. To anyone expressing concern, I appreciate y'all. You're just trying to make sure a person isn't being taken advantage of in a relationship, and that comes from a very empathetic place. But we're okay, I pinky promise. Story 4. That he legit saved my life. He's a nervous, humble guy who doesn't like undue pressure or praise, so I keep it to myself just how bad off I was before he showed up. Because even in the aftermath of my mom's death, and even in the face of some pretty nasty health problems, which I was just letting slide because I was so depressed I was kind of hoping they'd kill me, I was very, very good at smiling and being charming. 3 years of taking care of a terminally parent taught me how to smile and bear it and feign positivity even when you're running on empty. And I never felt like I could be anything other than the fixer, the doer, the person who always knows what to say, the reliable one, they who has every answer and can make bad feelings go away by just fixing the problem for you. I was not allowed to be negative, ever, but he legit came in and helped me with mom's estate and cheerleaded me into getting out of a dead-end career, and put a stake in the heart of some severely toxic relationships I had, and even helped me budget so I could finally afford health insurance, which wasn't a moment too soon, because I caught shit right in the nick of time. And he just kind of did it. In his mind it was nothing much because you were on the right track, but you had a lot on your plate and needed help. And I just nod and agree because what else do I say? I actually wasn't. I was just going to let myself die because I was exhausted and miserable, smiles aside. Thanks for intervening. Story 5. That his parents are really pissing me off and I do not want to be around them anymore. They're lousy grandparents to our son but not to his sister's children. For clarity, I love my in-laws. My husband and I have been together for 12 years. We just had our first son last year after trying for a decade. He was born very early and spent a good chunk of his life in the NICU. He's now 10 months old and has been home for almost 6 of those. This issue I have had with my in-laws is a very recent development. It started immediately when he came home. We told both sides of our family we wanted at least a week for the 3 of us to get adjusted. We also had 4 different doctor's appointments in that first week. When my husband told his mom that we wanted that week, she got immediately upset. She assumed that my family would be coming by. He assured her that they were not, but she was still in belief that my mom would be here. My mom has a very demanding job and works a lot of OT. She manages to come see him at least once a week, and she lives about 40 minutes away. When she comes up, she spends several hours here. His parents live between 10 and 15 minutes away depending on traffic. His dad does not work, and his mom has a lot of days where she works from home without a set schedule. They come up sometimes once a week and sometimes once every 2 weeks, for no longer than 1 hour at a time. I have told them on so many occasions that they're welcome to come up anytime as long as they call prior to coming in case we have an apt or my mom is here. Our son is on oxygen and is still very high risk, so we try not to take him out too often or have him get overstimulated with too many visitors in one day. They see my still children daily or very close to daily. They're older, between 10 and 15 in ages. There are 4 children and the younger ones are not well behaved. When asked about why they don't come to see him more often recently, Phil was coming up with all kinds of things to be annoyed about. A FB post about a college my husband posted, a security camera we have in our living room from when we took a vacation that isn't plugged in, and that I was laying down because I got so little sleep the night before. I did talk to my husband about how I was feeling. He said he totally understands and said he's been feeling a little upset about them himself. Again, I do not hate them. They're very dear to me, which is why it upsets me so much that they don't want to see their grandson. Story 6. I feel you on the ceiling fan. I was playing with my daughter, tossing her in the air when she was about 7 months old because it makes her laugh. I'd say it was about the 3rd toss of going increasingly higher that I heard and then saw her head smash directly into our 10-feet ceiling. The look of utter shock and confusion that lasted for about 4 minutes 5 seconds on her face before she burst into tears now makes me laugh when I think back on it. But Christ, did it ever put the fear of God into me at the time. I was 90% sure I had just crushed my child's soft spot, compressed her neck. My wife said I ran up the steps with her holding her like I just found her on the road after a car accident, trying to tell her we had to go to emergency right now. Christ, if I had sirens and lights on the car, they would have been on all the way, pedal to the metal. God bless the calm thinking of mothers. She took her, stopped her crying, told me to calm down as well, and calmly took us to urgent care for a quick checkup. We laugh about it now, but first-time parents just don't realize how bouncy and durable infants are. Even the nurse had a good chuckle when I told her what happened. Apparently it's pretty common, and she explained durability to me but was glad we stopped in just to be sure. I was worried she would be upset for wasting the urgent care staff time, but they were incredibly understanding and helpful. That first time through with a kid leads to a lot of ridiculous stories in hindsight. Story 7. The one time when she and I first got together and she spent the night, I made it very clear I wanted her to leave in the morning. She was uncomfortable and brought it up later because of my behavior. I'll never tell her it's because since I only had one bathroom at the apartment and she was on the toilet that morning forever. It probably wasn't that long. Just had time and my ass runs on its own schedule. I had to shit in a small trash can on the back patio area I had. I had a high fence so no one could see, but there was a mess I needed to clean, both outside and on myself. But of course when she's out of the bathroom she has no idea and is asking about breakfast or whatever while I'm covered in poo. After she left I tossed my clothes and the trash can in the dumpster and took a long shower. And she also doesn't know that's the reason I've insisted any apartment we live in has 2 bathrooms. We've lived in 4 apartments together and everyone has had 2 bathrooms, because I'm not doing that again. Story 8. The time I had intercourse with a snowman in a ditch behind my house. Though it was innocent, it's not something I'd talk about with anyone except the thousands of Redditors and millions people who saw the story I posted here that someone put on YouTube. Anyway, I guess I could tell it again. So, I believe it was March 1993 and a huge blizzard swept the East Coast. I was young, bored and extremely horny. I didn't know then what exactly it was that I was feeling, but knew that it was normal for my age. Well, we were out of school for what must have been 3 weeks but felt like an eternity. I wasn't around anyone my age. There were no girls in my neighborhood and obviously no internet for browsing of a certain kind, but even if there was, I'd definitely be too afraid to attempt it. One evening before dark, I decided enough was enough and I couldn't handle the urge anymore. I had been holding back for weeks because I was too embarrassed to do anything in the bathroom. The guilt and anxiety of someone catching me was too much. My room wasn't an option because the door didn't lock, and when my door was shut someone would ask why or just open it. It was far too risky and I couldn't jeopardize my reputation of being the only normal one in my family. I threw on my snow clothes and scuttled off into the wilderness behind my house with a plan. I wasn't sure I'd actually do it, but I wasn't exactly thinking straight either, for obvious reasons. Once I arrived at my destination, I decided to slide down into a gully that was about 15 feet deep. I sat there for a few minutes and listened for footsteps in case someone saw me, but it was silent, completely silent, where I could almost hear my inner voice say, "Don't do it, man. This is the moment of no return," I told myself. I was like a runaway train, never going back, wrong way on a one-way track. Anyway, I got to work and started shaping Snow into a female body. She had boobs, curves and the necessary inlet. I unzipped and went ahead with the task that lay before me, and within a minute or so it was all over. A few seconds of guilt and shame overcame me as I zipped up and erased the evidence. I crawled out of the gully back through the woods to my house. I went to my room and tried my best to forget her, but to my surprise that would be impossible, and every time it snows, I still think of her. Story 9. I've been so depressed lately. I do not like my job. I have crippling anxiety driving into work every day. I'm in 6-figure debt so I can't leave. I can't provide the life my family deserves, and it's only going to get tighter in coming months. I cry most days. My wife and son are the only things in my life keeping me going. They do make me happy, though it's a sad happy because I feel like I'm letting them down. My wife knows I'm not myself, but I won't tell her how bad things are. I know it will get better, but it's very hard right now. I will talk with my wife tonight and we'll try to come up with a plan. Not quite sure how, but she is going to get her husband back and my son is getting his dad back. I did talk with my wife. She's worried about me but so supportive. Things are tight but we'll get through. I made an appointment to talk to a professional. I don't have the energy now, but I'm going for a run on Friday after work and swimming with my son on Saturday. Thank you all. I did read a lot of comments and messages and everyone was supportive or funny. You all helped. Story 10. 5 years ago I was sitting in a rocking chair with my newborn son having a seemingly normal conversation with my partner. I was stressing about my current job and beaten down by my latest unsuccessful job interview. My attitude had been going downhill and my partner could tell. There was a pause in our discussion and they finally turned to me and said, "Do you think you might be depressed?" I don't know what it was about that question, but it opened the floodgates. It was like someone had finally unlocked the door and it all came out. I cried for nearly 2 hours talking about everything I had been bottling up inside. The crippling anxiety, crying at work every day, the helplessness of being stuck in a terrible job, the hopelessness that things would never get better. All of it. My partner was shocked. They had no idea this was all going on. When I had calmed down, we sat together and made a plan. Visited my family doctor and got some mental health referrals. It was the start of a year-long journey that helped me rebuild myself. I was very fortunate to have a supportive partner and family. We were in a place financially that we were able to make some sacrifices so I could leave my job and do something else. But none of that would have been possible if I had never told them what was going on. I'm not saying you can't get there yourself, but sometimes even a rock needs a little support. Story 11. That I have been seriously considering divorce for about 18 months now. She never smiles, never says anything nice, and is always complaining about everything. The only reason that I don't leave is my 2 children. I'm almost 100% certain that she would escalate from just her verbal to physical abuse towards them. She had her uterus and ovaries removed 9 years ago and has completely lost interest in any form of affection. Not just the sex, though I miss that. I mean hugs and kisses, holding hands, wanting to be close. She thinks that buying me things would replace the lack of contact. Her close-mindedness has caused our daughter to stop talking to her about anything at all. Jean now confides in me about everything and is worried about what her mother would do if it was found out that she is more interested in girls than boys. I work 90 minutes away from our home and I had a small apartment close to my work so I wouldn't have to make the 3-hour round trip every day. I was forced to give up the apartment because we couldn't afford 2 households, but she keeps buying crap we don't need. She never cleans the house at all, always stating that no one else cleans up after themselves, so she's not going to anymore either. She uses her depression as an excuse for everything to get out of doing anything she doesn't like to do. If I thought I could get custody of the kids, I think I would leave in a heartbeat.